Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about treasure split among the party. Okay, so splitting treasure in Dungeons and Dragons is a really fascinating thing, and I want to talk about it today because I'm currently running a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. It's one dungeon master, one dragon master, right? But because so this person is adventuring on their own, so they're a very successful adventurer. They're shutting stuff down. They're reaping those who need to be reaped, and they're attracting allies, right? And one of the things and this is why we're talking today is my current dragon master has taught me something about what I think is the best treasure split in Dungeons and Dragons, right? So how do you split treasure in Dungeons and Dragons as a dungeon master? And I want to talk about managing dragon masters today. And yeah, that's a little bit. Hey, isn't that a little bit of problematic language? We need to manage dragon masters. If there's some nonsense happening at this table, there's a lot of nonsense that dungeon masters can allow, and treasure split is where something can get really serious, right? So this is the best treasure split I've ever seen, and I want to put it forward, right? Because it's just something I learned in my current campaign, and I think it can help a lot of tables. But also, I understand I'm running one dungeon master, one dragon master, and you're like, Scott, I don't think that's going to work if there's 4 dragon masters at the table, right? So, but I was really inspired by seeing this gold dragon master. That's what I call the dragon master of my current campaign, the gold dragon master, because they're gold quality dragon master. Their play is just top tier play. Really, like I'm shocked as a dungeon master very frequently at some of the choices they make, and I'm able to just reward it with experience immediately. It's really I'm really having a blast with it. So all right, so let me explain what's happening. All right, so one dragon master, but this dragon master has allies, right? And the way this dragon master is running a sun elf fighter who actually has essentially a sun elf rogue with an assassin subclass. Okay, all right, so that's the build. Okay, so sun elf assassin with rogue subclass. Sun elf rogue assassin subclass. Okay, all right. But he's at first he was kind of getting wrecked because like it's just him, right? And all these non-player characters are just going around, and just action economy. You need an ally, right? So since our game is small, we have one player character and one one player character and one dungeon master. I allowed him to attract very naturally. It happened in the narrative. He attracted this dragonborn fighter, okay, by the name of Drax, right? By the name of Grax, excuse me. So he attracts this dragonborn fighter. Then he attracts this half elf ranger. Okay. So now essentially think of it as 3 people in the party, but this is unusual because it's 2 non-player characters and 1 player character, right? So this sun elf rogue assassin absolutely wreck drops this high level evil wizard, right? Now this evil wizard's got a ring of protection on him. They've got a big old sack of gold. Oh, and I'm sorry, it's not an evil wizard. It's a warlock. Evil warlock is redundant. So this human warlock. So this sun elf rogue assassin drops this human warlock, right? And this warlock's got a ring of invisibility. It's got some gold on him. He's got his packed blade, highly valuable, that's a major magic item, right? He has a magic shirt, which is unidentified, completely unidentified, right? And then there was one other item. I think, yeah, it was a ring of, a ring of +1 AC, right? So he's got 5 major magic items. So we come to this treasure split, right? And what was really interesting is this player character had attracted this non-player character as an ally because he said, "Hey, come adventure with me for opportunity," right? And I was like, "Oh man, like you should be paying him 100 gold a day." Like, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to pay him anything," right? Like, he needs to come on the adventure with me. And I think the player character was like, "Let me see what this NPC can do. Can he really help me?" Right? Well, he did help. He was highly helpful. He was loyal, right? And so when it came to do major treasure split, the player character immediately, the way they did it was they just went around and chose items, right? So he chose Ring of Invisibility. Now he's a rogue, he's a Sun Elf rogue assassin. That totally makes sense. Next, the non-player character chose the +1 defense ring of defense, right? And then the half-elf ranger chose the magical shirt. Then it goes back to the player character, the Sun Elf rogue assassin, and he chooses the big bag of gold. Then it goes back to Grax, and Grax chooses the ring of defense. It was the shirt, the pact blade, And actually, I'm sorry, the ranger chose the pact blade, and then the player character got the ring of invisibility and a big old sack of gold. It was about 2,000 gold, and then it was actually 2,600 gold. And then the shirt went to the unidentified magical shirt went to, and the ring of defense went to the dragonborn fighter, right? And so here's the split, right? One, you should assume good players will choose the material from the pile that fits their character, that they are actually able to use immediately, right? So the player character did this. They chose, like, they could have chosen the pack blade. That was the most valuable thing in the pile by far, right? But rather than choose it, they left it up for somebody else, you know? And then also, if your player character's in the mix, so one, and here's the other thing is, the player characters, one player character and two NPCs, they're standing around the body, and they are literally taking turns picking the item up and putting it on their own person, and that means it goes on their character sheet. That's a big deal, right? Like, you're just like, hey, I'm taking this. It's physically on mine now. And so one, when you're doing treasure splits, have the people, if they're not there, they get nothing, right? Like, first of all, the person who gets to the body first, they should get a chance to pick this is really important. The people who go to bodies get everything on the body, right? And at that point, then everybody should get everything from the different, and so the point is, once somebody physically picks it up, it goes on their character sheet. And that may mean they might keep it, right? Now, again, we're going to talk about players doing problematic things, and let's talk about that now. So if a player goes to a body, if there are two different player characters, and they go to two different bodies, and one has 3 magic items and another has a copper on it, right? The person who actually got that items, they go directly on their sheet. And that's really important. You need to know where this stuff comes, where it goes. And the reason why is I think it's really important that things go written directly onto the sheet, meaning this is in my possession, right? There's a difference between possession and ownership, right? So it goes onto your sheet and you are possessing it. Doesn't mean you own it yet, right? Now it's very easy for you to claim ownership because it's in your possession, right? Now, if a player does this and they're like, oh, hey, I know you found a copper. I found 3 magical items. I'm keeping all of it. You're not getting any. I just happen to get lucky, right? First of all, don't stop them, right? But one thing you want to do is, when you do have players who do treasure split well, don't punish people who treasure split poorly. The better way to handle it is really help characters who treasure split well, right? How can you do that as a dungeon master? Well, one of the first things is non-player characters talk to them first. And you might have a player character, a player say, "Hey, how come all the NPCs always talk to me, right? Never talk to me, and they always talk to Bob or Sarah? Why, if Sally says, "Hey, how come all the non-player characters always talk to Sarah first?" You're like, "Oh, it does seem unfair, like super unfair the way like you found three magic items on somebody's body and were like, hey, I'm taking all three of those and you keep the copper." It doesn't feel great, right? Right? Do a negotiation. Don't punish them directly, but like say, hey, if you're going to short these people at the table, I'm going to make them whole because I can. I'm the dungeon master, and you want to do that in a roundabout way. Don't do it like. And a lot of people are like, oh, just Scott, just say what you say. No, don't just say. Don't. Transparency is brutally punished, right? And it's not for dungeon masters and dragon masters. You want to give somebody a chance to solve the riddle for themselves, right? Don't just say it flat out, right? And the reason why is you're not dealing with regular people. These are most charismatic, confident, intelligent people in the world, right? If you want to do that, like if you want to be like, oh, hey, I'm just going to say the brash, crass thing openly. We're going to have a open conversation. I'm just going to say the rudest thing as quickly as I possibly can. Go do that with like baseball fans or or soccer fans or people who like online betting. Like for those kind of people, sure. But these are dungeon masters and dragon masters. These are people who are pursuing manifold sentience, who want to have 30 sets of emotion, experience, sensation, memory, right? These aren't normal humans. Don't treat them like normal humans, right? Treat them better. Give them a chance to solve the mystery on their own. It's very important. It's very important. Okay? All right. So the moment somebody picks something up off a body, it goes on their sheet, they have possession. And you should be leading your player characters to realize there's a difference between possession and ownership. You now have that in your possession. Doesn't mean you own it, right? You should really be splitting that out to the rest of the group. And when that split happens, right? When everybody throws everything into the center, right? And they go around and pick, right? Then at that point, they should be choosing the thing that best suits their abilities, not what's most valuable, right? And if they don't do that, don't reward people who do that. Don't punish people who don't. And, give them a chance to do it right, right? Now, if they continue to do it wrong, that's a different conversation. I'm not going to address that here, right? But give them a chance to do it right, to say, hey, if I treat everybody at the table well, that's going to be rewarded by the dungeon master themselves in different ways, in lots of different ways, right? And not just gold. There's lots of different ways we can reward that, right? So then they all go around and they choose, right? And this is interesting because now the moment you get to characters and this is almost like a good trump game, right? If you don't have anything that is good for you, then it's totally for you okay. It's totally okay. Right? And then you should not be choosing something like if there's a fighter in the party and there's a +2 sword, you shouldn't choose it, right? Let that. So you're picking first the stuff that you actually need. You're not picking stuff that anybody else in your group can take. And then if you have nothing in there that's directly for you, and nothing else, and the material there doesn't fit anybody in the group, take whatever you want, and you could easily take the most valuable thing, right? And that's a good split. It's the best split I've ever seen in Dungeons and Dragons, right? It's really solid and it's fair and it's exciting, right? Because things happen in surprising ways and people end up with things that they don't expect to have, right? And so then when they get to Waterdeep or Neverwinter, they can trade them out, they can sell them, they can use it. And that's another thing is sometimes a player character can do something sacrificial because you can get rid of an entire fight if you're willing to give up a magic item, right? Now, but I do also think like once that goes on somebody's character sheet, they should be pressured to give that up for somebody else. And you as a dungeon master should be very careful how you manage greed at the table. And don't punish it directly. Reward not being greedy. Tell them, listen, I'm going to reward you as a dungeon master in 5 different ways for treating everybody at the table with respect. I'm not going to just slap your hand when you do the wrong thing. And why do we need to go through all this artifice? Why do we need to go all the way around on this, right? Because these are special people. You're not at a table with like baseball fans, right? Like it's just like it. They think about things differently. This is a different grade of co-adventurer, right? Like this is just these are the most charismatic, confident, intelligent people in the world, right? Give them a chance to figure it out and find a different path. That's the best way to do it, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.